before we get into it, what exactly is digital ID? Why is it different from, let's say, your passport that has biometric data? Why is it different from when we log on to our computers and we sign into various applications, we have to use our fingerprints? Why is it different to, let's say, our driving license? Why is it different to our voter registration? What is different about digital ID to the IDs that we already have?
Well, a lot of those types of documents that you refer to that can be used as IDs are actually permits to do other things. So, for example, a driving license gives you permission to drive. A passport is something you use to for travel, but you don't have to have those things. The difference with a digital ID is that it exists solely to identify you and to hold information about you with the government. And Keir Starmer has said that it will be mandatory, so every single person in the country will have to have one. The other serious difference with this is that immediately this mandatory digital ID has been paired with serious restrictions on our liberty, which might give people a flavour of what's to come. So if you don't have Starmer's digital ID, you won't be able to work. And so naturally, the next questions that we ask are, what else won't you be able to do unless you have a digital ID? Why is it being introduced? And how much data will eventually be stored about each and every one of us attached to this digital ID? The fact is that already, to the extent that the government has said anything about the substance, it will be biometric. So it will be attached to your face, which is then becomes like your barcode, really. And by using your facial biometric, the government will be able to access a record on you. At the moment, they're talking about right to work checks and about basic information about individuals. But it seems very, very likely indeed that that will grow and grow probably into a sprawling surveillance system. And already various ministers have spoken about the different departments that will use this card, the different types of data they want to store in it, the way they want to use it for automated fraud checks, and for other kinds of permissions and prohibitions. So this has the potential to be a very, very sinister, expansive surveillance system.
Right. So there are digital IDs across the world, not just in totalitarian authoritarian nations like China, but in countries that we might consider the free world. Germany, Argentina, Belgium, Denmark, Estonia, and countries like Italy, Japan, Nigeria, Pakistan, Peru, Singapore. I'm not sure they're technically the free world, but they have their Sing Pass. And these are, by the way, the list goes on. In all of these countries have used it for various regions, including some of the things that you've mentioned already, but welfare, housing, voting, banking, tax filing, healthcare, public services, travel, employment, disaster response. There's a whole slew of reasons why people have brought in digital ID. What is the best argument for digital ID? Starmer said it's to clamp down on immigration. The Labour Together report that posited this, this was pushed by Jake Richards, MP for Rother Valley, and Adam Jogi, MP for Newcastle under Lyme. They have said it's about immigration. What is the best argument that digital IDs would be a good thing for Britain?
Well, it's definitely not about immigration. We can talk about that, but it's definitely the Brit card, as it's called. It will have absolutely no impact on small boat crossings, at least anyway. I guess the best argument for a digital ID system is if you are somebody that likes a big state and you see the role of government as not serving the public, but managing, potentially even controlling the public, wanting to know where everyone is all the time, wanting to be able to issue permissions and revoke them, then a digital ID is really the perfect tool of control in a scenario like that. And I think there are governments around the world that have them for that reason, basically for population management, and that have used them with varying degrees of positive and negative impact on populations. But one thing that really does bug me is that the reality of the impact of digital ID schemes around the world is never really spoken about. It's spoken about like, we get accused of behaving like digital ID is some kind of dystopian sci-fi, but really there's a lot of sci-fi in the descriptions of digital ID as being this magnificent positive thing around the world. If you look, for example, in the government's press release on digital ID, They reference the digital ID scheme in India. I mean, that's absolutely insane. The Aadhaar scheme in India has led to numerous deaths, really serious negative impacts.
How death? Why deaths?
Because, for example, when people have been locked out of their biometric identifier, whether it's connectivity issues or access issues, they can't access essentials and food. People who are living in poverty then can't access the things that they need. Likewise here, one of the first secondary uses that's being spoken about is access to welfare. And that would affect a population who, or many of whom already don't have passports, poorer people, older people. They don't have smartphones. They might not have very good internet access. They might not have very good digital skills. People with special educational needs and disabilities who aren't able to navigate systems like this could very easily be locked out. So there's no perfect comparison, of course, between countries like the UK and India, or even the UK and Estonia that's always brought up. Again, Estonia actually has had almost, I mean, their population is about 1 million people. They had 760,000 people lose access to their digital ID because of a security flaw. They had over 250,000 people whose photos were compromised because of a security flaw.
So your India example is not just that they would be locked out by let's say they've broken the law or they've done something wrong and intentionally.
Yeah,
but there's actually mistakes that happen that would lead to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a large-scale national technical system. The British government doesn't have a very good track record with IT systems, full stop.
Track and trace comes to mind.
Oh my God, yeah.
What we spent, 29 billion on? Was it
eye-watering?
Yeah. And it didn't work.
Yeah. Exactly. And in fact, even, the most direct parallels, the last ID scheme that this country attempted under former Prime Minister Tony Blair, and £5 billion of taxpayers' money was wasted on that, and it never worked.
5 billion?
Yeah, 5 billion.
We'll come back to Tony Blair because this is the origin of this whole issue in Britain. So just on this issue of trying to work out the best case scenario for the best argument for a digital ID. Now, you mentioned immigration. It's worth actually starting with this example. It seems obvious why it's not going to work on immigration. Firstly, the illegal immigrants who are coming here over the channel, Border Control is literally picking them up in the channel, bringing them to shore, and then busing them to hotels. So they've been registered. We know exactly who they are, where they are. And there's nothing being done about it. It's not like they're being deported. Well, it's okay. Very small numbers are being deported. Not only that, we saw through the Deliveroo scandal that those who want to work here illegally can find illegal identification. There were black market vendors of Deliveroo passes so that there could be this illegal workers could, I suppose the same thing was probably being done with Uber Eats as well, but these kind of services. So there is a black market that emerges. If you create a digital ID, there's a black market that comes about to get around it. I don't see how that wouldn't happen with digital ID. Presumably in these other countries, something similar has happened.
Because it would happen. I mean, exactly. I mean, people point to European countries that have digital IDs, and all of those European countries have very similar issues with immigration and illegal working. And even quite aside from the kind of app economy, people can work for cash in hand in kebab shops and barbers and, news agents and all the places that have come up in these investigations as employing people for cash in hand without identification. Already in the UK, there is a legal duty on every employer to do a right to work check. So you're supposed to show national insurance number or British passport to an employer before you can legally work. So people employers who are already not doing that are not going to suddenly decide to do it because the government's introduced a digital ID. It's for the birds. And I think every minister that's been sent out to try and defend this has only been able to respond by saying, well, it's not a silver bullet. So basically they're admitting it just doesn't work.
That's actually the term they use in the Labour Together report. It's not a silver bullet.
Yeah, well, I think, the reality is they're treating the British public like we're idiots and trying to force an extraordinary surveillance system on us on the premise of a lie. And I think people have woken up and realised that, because it does defy common sense. This has absolutely nothing to do with stopping the boats, smashing the gangs, or anything else. It has absolutely nothing to do with illegal working. But what it will do is affect the way that all of us live our lives and open up the beginnings of what could be a very, very expansive surveillance system affecting the whole population.
Thanks for watching this clip from The Winston Marshall Show. You can click here to watch the full episode, and for more clips like this one, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, be well.